Ringtones were sold on TV. That was a huge thing in Germany. Jamba, they were called. So we tried to get into this business, and we actually got into this business and had on Jamba the best-selling ringtone for a while. We had a request to make different country versions, so have a Spanish, Italian version and English version as well, and a French version. They released the full version in France, and it really went well, and it ended up being the best-selling CD in 2010 in France.
What does that ringtone sound like?
Yeah, I can try and sing it. Du bist so yummy, 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 fett, fett, fett. So yummy, 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 fett, fett, fett. Im Sommer gibst du Schatten und im Winter ist du warm. Und nach jedem Essen kommt ein Ton aus deinem Darm. My peer group was all still making great art. And was like, yeah, you know what? I have number one in France with a fart song.
It starts with just taking that leap.
Man, you have to work hard. You have to be incredibly smart.
Choose something that even if it fails, you are going to be proud of it.
Doesn't matter how badly you got beaten in battle.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
Become a better person, a better leader, the better business.
Go with your gut. I'm Samuel Donner, and this is Finding Founders. We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. Another Bite, hosted by John Dick, Jory Monroe, Leslie Green, and Ariel Boswell, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Each week, they break down an episode of everyone's favorite business television show, Shark Tank, offering their own unique thoughts, spin-off companies, critiques, and even talk with some folks who pitched the sharks themselves and live to tell the tale. From squatty potties to mensch on a bench, and even that weird golf club that you'd be into, that's a serious invention. I was just watching the video earlier. It's crazy. Another Bite takes a fresh look at some of your favorite episodes and, even more importantly, answers what these entrepreneurs are up to now. So if that sounds interesting to you, listen to Another Bite wherever you get your podcasts. And now, back to the podcast. We all start somewhere. And for Christian, that was a best-selling, chart-topping, fart-themed ringtone. Now with over 1.7 billion views on YouTube, 6 million subscribers, and 3 million monthly Spotify listeners, Christian, better known as the Fat Rat, has outgrown this early legacy and made an extraordinary impact on the electronic music scene. But how did this German artist get his start? Well, before composing for Dota 2 and Rocket League, and before producing the best-selling CD in France, Christian surprisingly discovered music through classical piano training. To learn how his early interest in musical improv and Chopin turned into a love for glitch hop, let's go back to his childhood, all the way to when he first earned his elementary school nickname, The Rat. I kind of want to take your whole career and life back to maybe one of your earliest memories of music, of instruments, maybe a family, if you can remember.
Yeah, actually making music is one of the very first memories at all that I have. I think I was about 2 years old, and I was sitting on my mom's lap. She was playing the piano. I was sitting there, and I would start hitting keys. But after a couple of sessions, if you will, she noticed that the notes I was playing matched what she was playing. So that's how I started making music. And it's always the answer when people ask me, when did you make the decision to make music? I'm always I started making music. I learned it
at
like
2
language.
years old.
Yeah, it's literally one of my first memories, probably my first.
Wow. So how did your parents start to encourage and foster that?
When I was 6 years old, I got piano lessons, and I quickly hated the piano lessons. And yeah, because the teacher was strict, but also she was giving me pieces that were really hard to play, but sounded boring. So after a while, I hated the piano because of the teacher, and I finally quit the piano. But my parents, they were still we think you really have some talent, and they were looking for another teacher. So I had the next teacher, didn't like it, had another teacher, I kept quitting on the piano. Every teacher I was I don't like it. And I think it was the 5th teacher actually where it finally, I was okay, cool. Now I start liking it. He was more into improvisation. He was more blues and jazz and doing those kind of things. And also, he was in the meantime, my mom had founded a music school, and he was working there. So he kind of had to do what my mom was telling him.
She's like, please train my child.
yeah. And what he was always complaining to mom. He's like, he's so talented, but he never practices. But after a while, he said like, but he always comes back with new songs that he wrote himself. And my mom was like, please just let him play his own songs as long as he keeps making music. And that's what I did. So I always got like some homework, and I never did the homework. Just like in school, I never was like into doing things that people told me seriously, like a serious level. But I always wrote my own songs, and then I played them to the teacher. And then sometimes he was like, hey, maybe you can try this or you can try that. And that way I slowly got to love music again.
Why do you think you like didn't want to adhere to like the homework or the pieces that were given to you? Like, what was it about that where it's like, I just want to do my own thing? Like, why do you think you did that?
Probably just being stubborn. I don't know. It was just never my thing.
Like, I feel like often the people that question norms are also the people that just like the schoolyard bullies try to cut down. It's like, oh, that kid's different. That kid's doing not what everyone else is doing. Like, let's like cut him down, make fun of him, bully him. Was that at all your experience at like, in elementary and middle school, or did you feel like you were able to kind of like go with the pack?
Not so much. No, and it's not so much going with the pack. So my artist name, The Fat Rat, actually comes from school because people were calling me the Rat, just in German. So it's Ratte, which was my nickname for a long time. And people were like kind of trying to put me down with it.
So you were called the Rat because maybe like what I guess you went against the grain. You hated everyone, or like, is there anything you actually did?
Specifically, so I grew very late. So for a real long time, I was so much smaller than everybody else. And when you're a boy, like, I don't know, 12 years old, and everybody's so much taller than you, and boys fight, at least in my time. They did. I don't know how it's today looking at the school. Anyway, but we fought a lot. So you're small. So you either you run away and you give up, or you become extremely sort of brutal, if you will, right? So everybody has to. You probably win the fight, but you're still going to regret that you tried.
Why did you adopt that name? Like, why is that? Like, why did you start to identify with it? Because it seems like initially it was a term meant to put you down.
Yeah, initially it was, and then later it was just a name, right? You have your name in school, and everybody calls you that way. And then it wasn't a super conscious decision when I started playing online games. That I just called myself the Fat Rat. It was just, I thought it would be fitting, and I thought it was also, it's like, it's like somebody you that's really hard to kill. Right? A fat rat. It's like, it's annoying. It's hard to kill. And it's hard to hurt even. So that was sort of the feeling that I associated with it.
So you have this really interesting like character development in terms of identifying with this rat, in terms of like, you're going to survive by any means necessary. But while the Fat Rat is developing, you're also still developing your music. So as you're going to, like 15 or 16, how does the thoughts of what you want to do in music change? Is there like a career path that you see for yourself going forward initially, and as you go into high school?
Yeah, because music was the only only thing that I was good in, and I always loved classical music and orchestra, and I was like decent at that time playing piano. So I thought to myself, okay, I might become a conductor. That would be awesome. And what also happened then when I was 17, that was a really, really important experience for me, was that I got a new piano teacher as well, who was super strict. Because my mom told me, hey, Chris, if you want to make classical music, you have to be really, really good. So we have a really good teacher in our music school, and you'd have to go to her. And she was just really, really strict. I remember I had the first lesson, which was okay. And then I practiced a little bit and went to the second session. And she was like, right away, she said like, Chris, this is not working. If this is your level, this is your dedication, just leave. It's not going to work. So she was really tough. And later on, she would take the Beethoven sonatas, which is like a huge book, like second part of Beethoven, probably like 400 pages. She would just sometimes slap it on my head if I was play wrong. So this was really, really, really tough person. Still, also, it was kind of the first time that I felt that somebody really believed in me because she was so strict. She was like the kind of person that says like, you know, you're actually better than you think. There's potential in you. And if you really start working hard, yeah, you can actually develop that potential. All of a sudden I felt like, oh, I'm on top, right? I'm pretty good. I can change things when I put myself to it and I practice and I put in the work and the effort. And man, that changed sort of everything, because all of a sudden you feel like, wow, I can actually create my own life. And I had this experience of changing myself, changing my own life. That was probably one of the most important experiences.
How did that begin to flip more towards music production? Because like, it's like what you're doing today is different from being a classical conductor. So I'm wondering, when did you start moving towards that path, and what were the things that inspired you to get into the music production side of things?
So first of all, what I did at that time was I was practicing for 4 hours per day at least. So I would stand up at like 5:30 a.m., practice for an hour, get to school, then practice at least 3 hours in the afternoon, 7 days a week. Extremely dedicated. And then I went to the first competition, but I didn't get into the next round still. Then, and this is the important one, there's a competition called Jugend musiziert, which is like the big piano competition or music competition in Germany for young people. And I played there. And I know I played better than I ever had played before. Like, it just came out. It was just, for me, it was just perfect. It was like really, really difficult pieces that I was playing. However, the jury, I quickly realized when they were introduced, that they're actually not that competent. It was just like some random teachers there from the school where this was held. And then after I was playing, they called me in, they were discussing my things, and the things that they told me that they were criticizing, I was like, they don't even understand music. They were telling me things that made no sense. And none of them was a good piano player, actually. And then I got the final score, and out of 25 points, which is maximum, I had 16 points, which is like, this is like a 3, wow. Like a C or a C grade in school. And I was just completely devastated. And it turned out this was one of the most important experiences that I had, because that was when I decided, and I had a couple of other experiences where I realized the problem about classical music is that it's not so much about actually the music. It's a lot about the connections that you have. It's a lot about the friends that you make. Experienced people in the classical music business, if you will. And so they said like, oh yeah, the problem is he didn't know any of the people on the jury, right? He had no friends there. You need to build the connections and everything. And after I learned about this, I was like, this is not for me. I want to make great music. I don't want to like build my career based on connections. I want to build my career based on great music.
Yeah, I want my music to speak for myself.
Yes, exactly.
I'm putting myself in your position right now. I don't think I was as good as you, but I did classical piano for 15 years when I was younger. And so I was practicing like 2 to 3 hours a day, every day. I was lucky to find another passion before I realized I was never going to be as good as I needed to be at piano. In that interim, like there was still a little bit of listlessness where I was like, what do I do now? When you realize that this classical track that you had been on for the last, 10 years, something crazy like that. It was like a lot of years. that track you were on didn't seem to interest you or be viable. This specific feeling is I think, like something that a lot of young people feel, a lot of people that feel like unsure of what they are doing in their careers right now and want to change. There's this feeling of like, oh shit, like I hate what I'm doing right now, or I'm not sure what I want to do. And so I have to find something new. And it's like, how do you even begin to find that passion when you can be so low? And how did you do that?
I really wish I could give like some good advice on that and tell people, see, this is how I figured it out in a great and mature way. Unfortunately, that was not what I was doing. I handled it in a very immature, adolescent way, which was drinking a lot of alcohol, partying like crazy, and trying to get into every fight that I could get in, because I was doing Kung Fu for a lot of years now, and I was finally growing up, and I was still so disagreeable. So I was sort of I don't know. I'm not proud of the person that I was at that time, really. And I was just, just floating around for like, maybe it was like 2 years or so, where I was really just frustrated and angry and aggressive and 19 years old and just the worst.
Can you tell me about a story from those times of like either like a fight that you got into, or just like something that you feel like represents just who you were? Yeah. So it was actually we can spend the entire evening telling you stories. One is that we were going to a Altstadtfest, which is like the old city fest in Göttingen, and we were warming up, which meant before we go to the party in the entire city in summer. And before that, we met at home at a friend, and we were warming up, which means just drinking like crazy. And it was completely wasted already when we went for the party. And how they called this, I don't even know the English word. We had this back in the day where we didn't have mobiles, but you had this telephone cell where you step inside and you make a call. Oh, like a phone booth, yeah.
A phone booth, yeah, exactly. Which had glass on 4 sides. And a friend of mine said, hey, let's scare them a little bit. I was like, yeah, let's scare them. I went there and I actually crashed the glass of the telephone booth. So the shards were dropping on the 2 girls inside. They were running out screaming. And I would just crash all the other glasses of the telephone booth, just screaming and like raging. But then the police came and took me with them, and I went to court, and I had I had to pay for the telephone cell and had to pay a fine and everything.
Wow.
And then later the police, like a few months later, the police called a friend of mine again. And they were instructing him because we had stolen some bicycles, and they were instructing him, da-da-da-da-da. And then we were, oh, Mr. Buttner, yeah, you already know the procedure to just come with us, idiot. Yeah.
Wow, you were up to no good at that point.
Really not. So that's what I said. I have no advice how to handle this frustration.
How did you discover music production?
I discovered it through a magazine that a friend of me had lying around. It was like a magazine where it's like about, I don't know, synthesizers and audio equipment and stuff. And of course, I was going to clubs a lot. I was loving dance music. Dance music was already very huge in Germany in the 90s.
What did it sound like?
It kind of sounded how it sounded 10 years later in the States.
Like
the techno-ish, like what later on, like, I don't know, Rihanna and Lady Gaga were doing. It was like somehow like that. It was in the...
Okay, so you're getting influenced by all the clubs that you're going to. You are stumbling upon synthesizers. How do you actually take the leap into getting that equipment for yourself?
Yeah, but I had saved a lot of, like, not a lot of money, but a few thousand mark at that time for a car, and I didn't know what to do. And so I had this idea, I want to be a music producer. So I invested all the money that I had into studio equipment. And
all of it. And you had never produced like a music in that way before.
No.
They're like, let's just go all in.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Okay, so what did you buy?
Oh, I bought a mixing desk for No, I think the mixing desk was already 6,000, and some speakers.
$6,000?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's mark, but it's like would be dollars today.
It's somewhat equivalent.
Yeah.
Damn, bro,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money. Why were you so convinced to like spend all your money on this?
I don't know. I was always like, before I was taking a loan to buy a good piano for 12K. I had it before, I think when I was 16, and my mom was like signing for me, but I was repaying it actually. And I made sort of good money because I was teaching piano. I was giving kung fu lessons. I was conducting a choir already. So I was working quite a bit already, and I was living at home. So you have like 500, 700 probably per month that you can just spend for your like whatever you want. So yeah, I was like, I had more money available for the next 10 years after that.
So you buy this mixer. How do you like, are you teaching yourself? Are you looking for a mentor? Like, how are you starting in it?
No, I was trying to teach myself. I kind of, when you're young, you often have that feeling that you already have it figured out anyway because you're awesome, sort of, right? This delusional superiority.
Grandeur,
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm amazing. I'm good at the piano, better than probably most electronic music producers. So I know more about music than all of them. So. And then, so
I was classically trained. I know Mozart. Come on,
I know everything. I know everything. So what happened? I was sitting down for a couple of months in the studio working or trying to make something great. And then what I found out is I wanted to have my songs played in the club, and I found out that if I go there in the middle of the night to the DJ and hand them a CD, which they were playing CDs at the time, they would say like, I don't have no time for you, go away. So what I did, I got into the club right when they opened up. So at 9 p.m., club would be opening. I would be there, go to the DJ, hand him the CD. The DJ was like, yeah, sure, let me hear what you got, and played it. And then the guy who was doing the light came to him and said, like, what the hell are you playing? This sounds horrible. Can you please turn it off? I was standing right next to him.
So what did you think when the music that you've been working so hard on for the last couple of months, everyone hated?
I thought like, okay, I think I have something to learn. Actually, I wasn't so frustrated. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. I have to. I'm probably worse than I think I am, and I have to learn.
But we're in like what 1999, 2000. Where do you like even start to learn some of these like how to be and also being a music producer is it's not like you could go to school at that time for that, right? Like or could you? So
99, I started producing late 99, and then I didn't know what to do, so I started going to university for business, so like an MBA sort of thing.
Classic. Don't know what to do, business school.
But yeah, so I was like, I it's not going to hurt. And actually, I'm still benefiting from that a lot because I have to run the business. So when I look at, I don't know, how's it called in English, the books, and understanding the accountancy.
Like
right?
taxes and all
taxes
that.
and all those things. I still have a basic understanding, which is helpful, maybe also sometimes dangerous. But anyway, and then I was still producing music, still nothing happened. And then I found sort of accidentally on the internet that there's actually a school where you can learn audio engineering.
On the internet in 1999?
No, you couldn't learn on the internet, but you can. Okay. I found on the internet that there is a school. It was in Munich. My mom is from Munich, so it was like 500 kilometers away from where I lived, so it was quite a little further away. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And then I went there. And it was amazing. What was really amazing was that I had tried to teach to myself for so long because I had like so many questions in my head. And when they started teaching, like everything they taught was like, oh, this is how you do it. Oh, that's how that works. Da 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 da. And all the other people who hadn't like tried to self-teach them first, it was just information where they didn't really know where to put it. And I was very motivated, and while being really not that good in school for a long time, in the end I got better. In university, I was the best in class, almost the entire class, or one of the best.
Without application, a lot of information becomes like useless. It becomes just like learning for leisure. And so having this background of like you already trying your hand at that made that information instantly applicable. So now my question is, were you instantly applying it in the background, like as you were going through the program? Were you continually making music and like utilizing that new information?
Yes, absolutely. I was producing. I was like trying to get record deals. Didn't work, but at least I got invited to some labels. And they were like, "Oh, that's not bad. We will think about it." So I already got into that situation with some cool labels. And since I was sort of the best in class, there was, for example, one DJ who was like playing a lot of the hip hop, like all the hip hop parties in Munich. He was like the top tier hip hop DJ in Munich, and he wanted to work with me. I learned so much there as well because he had absolutely zero knowledge about music. And he was also really not good in audio engineering. But he had a completely different like approach to music. For him, it was all about like, is it cool, right? And will people dance in the end? So I made a lot of things where I thought like, oh, it's like great chords and great engineering. He was like, this sucks. People not going to dance. And sometimes I finished something and he would play it and I would see, okay, people are not dancing. So it really opened another ear for me where like, okay, this is another perspective that you can have on music, which is not a technical perspective. It's not like a theoretical music perspective. It's just a more you're sort of listening with your hips, if you will.
I love that. That's so cool. Wait, so when you were going through this program, you met this DJ. Were you guys like going out to clubs together and like, or like sitting in the studio together, working on like songs and then like testing it out and like
exactly.
And in this, was there like a goal or dream that you guys had in your head where it's like, okay, like we're going to be like a duo or something, or was it just, random practice? Like what was it leading towards?
I was always seeing myself just as a producer, not as an artist. I don't know why I had this idea. I don't know. Probably because I was so disagreeable that everybody always told me, Chris, like give others their room, right? Do not be like, don't always try to be in the center of attention. So this was sort of a mantra for me. I was like, okay, I'm learning, I'm growing up. I don't want to be in the center of attention all the time. And so I didn't have the idea of forming a duo. I just wanted to have a record deal. That was everything that I wanted. I just wanted to put out music. That was sort of it. There wasn't like a specific goal where I was like, oh, this is exactly where I want to be.
How do you get a record deal though? Like, how does that happen? Like, and
I didn't even know. I was just sending demos around of also stuff that I produced where I thought like, okay, it's probably going to be a project. Like I said, I never wanted to be a DJ myself or an artist myself at that time. But nothing worked. Right. And then what also was a big problem that started there was like Napster and Kazaa and those things, those peer-to-peer networks, because labels stopped signing stuff.
Really? Because it was hurting their like bottom line?
Yeah, like crazy. Like revenues went down like, I don't know, 12% per year. And was like 12% last, 12% west, 12% this. It was like really, I think the revenue went down overall like 50% over a couple of years. So it was really, really, really bad.
Wow. I didn't know Napster had such like a huge effect.
It was crazy. Especially in Germany, because the label stopped signing like almost completely. And later they were still like, yeah, you can come, you can play me songs, we can chill, but I'm not going to sign anything because I'm not allowed to sign anything. They were very, very careful about signing new stuff because they had to save money. They were scared that they would just go out of business.
It was difficult. initially, before all of this, to get a record deal, it's now like near impossible because because of Napster. Okay, so what year are we in right now?
So we're in like 2001, 2002. Let me think. When did it change? So the next step really happened 2003. I was still studying and I had to do an internship. And I tried to talk my way around the internship with the prof. I was like, hey, I have like so much experience. You're like, no, Chris, you do your internship. So I applied for a internship at the student radio, which was amazing because I was just recording girls because all the editors were girls. That was fun. But then I also got another internship at a music production company, which had produced Lou Bega Mambo No. 5. He's Lou Bega. A little bit of Monica in my life, a little bit.
Yes,
that one.
Yeah.
It was a huge worldwide hit and it was produced in Munich, actually. Lou Bega is actually from Munich. And so I got an internship at the production company and was like, this is my chance. And was just producing like crazy. And at some point they were like, yeah, so we have this stuff. You can just try making a remix. So I would like make 3 remixes and like really worked hard. And I was getting better. They liked what I was doing. And at some point they said, oh, you can like lead the production team. And they brought me in the studio with Lou Bega. And they had a huge studio booked for the next album production. And I was just pulling in more and more work. So I would just do everything for free, if you will. Or then a little bit later, I asked them to pay me 500 euros at that time, which is like $500 per month. So just so I can make a living. And I would just work like crazy. I would just work, 14 hours a day.
We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. Are you sick and tired of wasting all your time on tedious tasks like writing reports, writing blog posts, trying to personalize countless prospecting emails? Like when you change that first sentence and it's just like, oh, this is a new email. Well, guess what? You don't have to do any of that anymore because these new AI tools are going to blow your mind. I don't know if you've been playing around with ChatGPT. Insane. People think they're coming for your jobs, but I think they're going to make your job a lot easier. And that's why HubSpot is introducing their newest AI tool, Content Assistant and ChatSpot. Content Assistant uses the power of OpenAI's GPT-3 model to help you create content outlines, outreach emails, and even web page copy in seconds. And in case that wasn't enough, they created ChatSpot, a conversational growth assistant that connects to your HubSpot CRM for unbeatable support. Head to HubSpot.com/artificial-intelligence to get early access today. And now, back to the podcast. How do you think at that time you were thinking about getting into this world and the work that it would take to break through the noise?
At that time, I actually did then have a strategy, which I had kind of clear laid out in my head, which was I'm going to work for free. I'm going to take as much work as I can until I have more requests than I can take. And as soon as I have more requests than I can take, I would then the next request tell them, oh, actually, I'm full. You'll have to pay me if you want to have something. You want me to remove something else out of my schedule. And that worked. So, right, then the next one's like, oh, yeah, actually, I want you to do that work, so I'm going to pay you a little bit. And then you're telling the next person no. And you're like, oh, this guy is actually paying me, so you'll have to pay me more. And just climb up the ladder slowly.
You have leverage once you have a full schedule at a certain rate. And that's when you have leverage. I think that's a really smart way for you to build leverage and elevate your career. So that's an excellent strategy. So did it work?
Yes, it worked because you say no in a very relaxed way. You're like, sorry, I'm booked. If you want me to make space for you, you'll have to pay. If not, that's totally fine because I'm booked. I'm busy anyway. Right. So You're never afraid of losing any work.
Yeah, no, that's a super interesting and I think important strategy. So, can you lead me up to, because that was 2003. My next thing that I want to talk about is in 2010, where you had a song go pretty crazy. So I was wondering if you maybe could you like lead me up into that point to 2010?
2006 was then I left the company that I was working with. We had finished the album. We had released the album. It was an absolute flop. I had so many people talking and like so many people were working on it. It was a complete confusion. But I learned a ton of stuff. I made little money, but I could survive on it. And in 2006, I said, okay, I'm just going to do my own thing now. I'm going to start. It was really, really hard in the beginning. I was mostly surviving off making ringtones for back then Siemens. So I don't know how it's called, the Siemens ringtones. So if you bought a new new mobile phone at that time, the ringtones on there, you know, the little funny melodies, those were made by me. I had a studio that got me the job. They were paid 800 euros for one ringtone. They paid me 50 euros for one ringtone. So they would pay, keep 750 for them. They would give me 50. For me, it was still amazing because I could make like, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 euros in one night. Because usually they would call me in the evening. They were like, we need 20 ringtones tomorrow. I was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to work through the night. Yeah. And then I just tried
pumping out those. Did you remember? This is kind of a funny question, but do you remember any of the ringtones? Like,
yes,
could you like?
I might probably turn one of those from 2007, maybe. Might probably still turn it into a song and release it at the as the Fat Rat in this year, maybe. It was a really great creative lesson. Because I realized when you do 20 ringtones in one session, from let's say 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. the next day, it's crazy. Like you do the first couple of ringtones, maybe 3, and they're okay, and then you're sort of out of ideas already. So you make 2, and they sound horrible, but you still have 15 left. So you just keep going, and I really realized when you just keep going and create stuff, all of a sudden you have like some really amazing stuff coming out of you that you never expected. And also, one of those ringtones, what also happened then, so this is 2010, that ringtones were sold on TV. That was a huge thing in Germany. Jamba, they were called. So we tried to get into this business, and we actually got into this business and had like on Jamba the best-selling ringtone for a while. And they asked us, so I had a business partner at that time, they asked us to do a follow-up. Which didn't work so well, but they still asked us to make different versions for different countries.
What does that ringtone sound like? Like I need to like I'm trying to visualize it or
yeah, I can try and sing it. Du bist so yummy, 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 fett, fett, fett. So yummy, 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 fett, fett, fett. Im Sommer gibst du Schatten und im Winter ist du warm. Und nach jedem Essen kommt ein Ton aus deinem Darm. Oh.
Wait, sorry. What does that translate to?
So you're so yummy, yummy, fat, fat, fat. So you're yummy and fat. In summer, I can stand in your shadow. In winter, you're keeping me warm. And after every meal, there's noise coming from your bottom. So it was really
wow, and that was the most popular.
So this is wait. So this is peak artistry, as you can hear.
I love how you go from classical music playing Chopin to making these ringtones. That's amazing. But like, it seems like there's good money in it though, right?
That was the point. And I was like, I had still like all this classical writers surrounding me. And I was very disagreeable still. In a sense, slowly starting to mature probably, but I was always like, yeah, you are doing like amazing, like very classical stuff. You know what? I'm making money. I'm just making the stuff. But I'm sitting in the studio. I'm just sitting on my computer and I'm making money. You guys, you're living on, I don't know, like still your parents' money and stuff. So yeah, that was the attitude behind that for me. And I just wanted to get into the business. And yeah. And so we had a request to make different country versions. So like have a Spanish, Italian version and English version as well. And a French version. And then 2010, they said, oh, can you please make like a full song out of it? Because it's working well in France. And I just sat down for like 2 hours probably and just like did something to make a song out of it, like weird stuff. And they released the full version in France and it really went well. And they released it on iTunes. And then it went into the charts and it went on top of the charts with the CD sales actually. And it ended up being the best selling CD in 2010 in France. And we're talking about the country that has like Daft Punk, just to remember. and Median. Yeah.
Bro.
Everybody in France knows that song.
No way. That's in. How did that feel? How did that feel? What are you thinking about? Because it's like, yeah. I won't even prime that question. How did you feel with that?
Can tell you exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is not my fault. Like I can make great classical, amazing music, and I was making very like sophisticated music. If you guys don't listen to it, if you guys buying that shit, that's not my fault.
I think it can be frustrating sometimes as like an artist to be like, man, the people don't like the thing, like the sophisticated, meaningful music or art, and they just want the nyon 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 yummy songs.
Yeah,
was that
in
frustrating
a way,
to you?
Not really. I kind of saw myself like a rebel, if you will, right? To all the my peer group was all like still making great art, and was like, yeah, you know what? I have #1 in France with a fart song.
What do you have?
I'm making money.
Yeah, wait, how so diving into the numbers, like how much does that pay?
Oh, it wasn't that much. It's not, but I think the best month was probably 17K, I think. So it's getting
not
better.
Bad, bro.
So
not bad.
So overall, I don't know, probably I wasn't taking care of the business at that time. Overall, I don't know, maybe 50K, maybe 80K, something like that overall. Because you get this super small split that you share with your management and the other guy in the company, and everybody who wrote. And I was writing it together with another guy as well, who did like actually really contribute to it. So, yeah. But yeah, so I wasn't frustrated about it. I also felt like, I feel like often the stuff that later on people think it's art at that time is often like frowned upon, and there's this like love-hate relationship often, which you can find. I think there was a time where ABBA was like canceled in Sweden. Like they were starting to get popular. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure about that. But then people were like, oh, this is like low quality music. We have to protect the youth. So they were like, wasn't allowed to play ABBA on the radio and stuff like that. So it often happens when something more like, more revolutionary. It's probably the same with hip hop or rock music when it came up, or rock and roll, where you with Elvis, where there was like trying to protect the youth, or the Rolling Stones or stuff. So I was kind of seeing myself in that way, not fully, but
Yon and Elvis and the Rolling Stones, same level,
same level, not quite, but not quite. No, back then, just to clarify that, I didn't think that 30 years later somebody would look back and like, oh, this is like art, or something. Not that, but I felt I was at least making something relevant, right? And I felt. Which is also what I felt when I started working with a hip hop DJ. Like, music doesn't need to be sophisticated. It needs to move people. It needs to touch people. And also when that song blew up, first I thought it was just kids listening to it. But YouTube was around at that time already. And I saw videos of clubs with like thousands of grown-up French people doing a weird dance to this song with a farting.
That's so funny, bro. That's insane.
I'm starting to create stuff that has an impact.
That matters. Yeah. It's like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it actually fall? Does it make a sound? If an artist is there to make a painting and no one looks at it, are they an artist? You know, and I think come to the conclusion that artistry needs relevance. An as vital component as the art itself is the ability to be relevant and to have, like, you know, to distribute and for people to see it. And so I think, like, you kind of like master that component of, okay, I have distribution, right? Where it's like, I can get hit number one in France. But maybe it's not the art that I feel like is close to the heart. And so in 2011, I feel like you start that journey into, like, okay, how can I both have distribution relevance, but also create art that's, like, meaningful to me? Could we talk about getting married?
Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to make it short. 2010, I was moving to the US because everybody was, like, looking for the next hot European dance producer. If you remember, there was a time when dance music was becoming so big in the US, and all the record labels realized that at this short period of time, the hip-hop producers the American producers hadn't quite catched up to the European producers who had been doing this for a long time. And we used that to go into the US and worked with the major labels there. And at the same time, my friend, sort of best friend girl that I knew since I was 17 and she was 15, finally became single. She was always in overlapping relationships, and I always wanted to be together with her. But she was also always in a relationship, and she just became single, and we moved to the US, and she was in bad shape at that time. I was like, hey, why don't you come with us? I'm going to pay you the flight, and you just stay with us for 2 weeks just to get out of our hometown. And she came with us, and pretty fast it was like, you know, I always want to be together with you. And she was very reluctant. She was very like, why? I tried to relax. I came here to relax and not for you to hit on me. But then finally I was like, okay, cool. It's fine, but just take your time. But then we got together. And then pretty quickly in 2011 as well, we got married. It went fast because we knew each other for such a long time. And it's been the best decision of my life, for sure. Because what happened after we got together? I was working in Los Angeles, still working 14 hours a day, like crazy. And my wife, or girlfriend, then later on wife, back then she was still my girlfriend, said to me, Chris, you're putting more work and effort and more heart and soul into all of those songs than anybody else, because you're working 2 weeks on a song, and then often you're writing it and everything, and then the artist comes in, sings for an afternoon, and leaves again, and you're working on another week on the song to make it perfect. You should be the artist. And I was sort of reluctant to it for a while, but then all the blog music blew up. So many electro acts popped up, like Zed, for example, Skrillex, Median. I loved the music, and I thought, like, hey, I really could do this kind of music. And then in the same, it was like, I think 1 week apart from each other, that I put out an EP on SoundCloud as The Fat Rat. I created a SoundCloud account called The Fat Rat because it was my online name, and put out an EP. And then 1 week later, I think I got married to my girlfriend and then wife. So it really went hand in hand, 2011.
What happens to that SoundCloud?
It didn't feel really like a big step in professional life because I was just uploading songs on SoundCloud. And I went on a honeymoon and didn't look at SoundCloud. And I sent it to like 10 music blogs, the EP. And then I came back and opened up SoundCloud and was curious how many plays I had. And I remember it was like 71 plays on the entire EP. 71. It's not a lot. So once again, I felt like, okay, got to keep going.
Where did you go from there?
I sent the music to people on SoundCloud because there were mostly producers on SoundCloud and you can contact other people. So, and you could see the followers of other artists. So I would look for Zed, for example, or Potter Robinson and Skrillex and Median and see the people that would follow them and then write them a personal message. Most of them had music uploaded themselves. So I would comment on their songs and then send the message like, hey, this is what I think about this song. And by the way, maybe you want to check out my song. And then I contacted an artist called Leno. And he came back, he was like, oh, this is great. And I want to introduce you to my manager. And then he was like, oh, I also want to introduce you to a band called The Knox. And then their tour manager asked if he could manage me. And I was like, yeah, let's try it. And he got me the stems from Foster the People, Don't Stop. So the vocals, and said I could do a remix for them. We ended up not selling them the remix for a couple of reasons, but I just put it out for free and it went to number 1 on Hype Machine. And that really, so I had then went from 71 plays to probably 100,000 plays on that remix through Hype Machine. That's really when it started. And then 2 weeks later, I made I had a request for Flowrider to do a remix as well, which they didn't end up not taking. But he had this sample of this, oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, which was also used in Levels from Avicii. So I flipped the remix a little bit and put the short sample of Levels in there and put it out as a Levels remix, which once again hit number 1 on Hype Machine. And then I made a bootleg remix for Gautier, somebody that I used to know. I don't think it went number 1, but I think it had 160,000 plays within the first 2 days. So it really, things started going viral then. In 1 year, I had 10 remixes released and all 10 went into the top 10 on Hype Machine. And 3 of them went number 1. I was mostly producing for other artists, but I did not like the culture in Los Angeles, like the work culture in Los Angeles.
What do you think the work culture was?
Grinding every day, 14 hours. And I had done it for so long.
So how did you take action to move towards something else?
I moved back, my wife and I moved back to Germany. And she had a very old dog that couldn't climb stairs. And we didn't find any apartment without stairs. But I knew that my mom had an apartment in her basement where the dog wouldn't have to go on any stairs. And so I asked my mom if we could move in there. And she was like, yay, awesome. My son is coming home. So we moved to my mom's basement. So that's where I went after, Billboard number 1 and producing K-pop and being with huge producers in Los Angeles and being on fancy parties and everything. I moved back into a small village south of Göttingen into my mom's basement. And I really enjoyed this groundedness of living in a small village in the middle of nowhere and not caring, not about not how you look, like who you are, all those things. Just like, okay, everybody's sort of the same. It's very equal.
How did you start restructuring your days and your life then?
I didn't know what I want. I was very conscious about not knowing what I wanted. But first, I kind of knew a little bit what I was always missing because I always loved video games and I didn't get to play a lot of video games. And I had all that passive income from the music that I had put out. So the structuring of my life was pretty much sleeping for a really long time, then going to the computer, playing Skyrim, eating something, playing a little bit more Skyrim, taking a walk with my wife, having great talking to my wife, having probably watching or in the evening we were mostly talking, having great conversations, meeting with friends, and then do it all over again. And after a couple of months, I realized that I got bored. So that was when I was sitting down. I remember I was sitting down we had in this very small kitchen in the basement of my mom together with my wife every day and asking Svea, what do I want? I don't know what I want. What is it that I want? And she was very patient with me. She was, Chris, you're going to figure it out. What do you think you might want? So we would talk about it for weeks, actually, what I wanted, because I just didn't know it.
When did you start figuring it out?
end of 2013, I was just producing music here and then, and you know, it just came back. I was like, I kind of really still like making music. I just didn't like how I was making it. My wife and I made a decision. She was like, you know, Chris. Oh, first of all, she said, I don't care, Chris, if you're successful or not. She said, I would move into a cave together with you. I'll be with you no matter what. That was really, really, really important for me. And I knew she meant it. And so we found a deal, if you will. She said, like, you know what? Just make music that you like for 1 year. Just what you feel and put it out. Just throw it out there and see what happens. But just the music that you really like and that you really love. And we can live for a year. We have enough money. And then let's see what happens.
And so what happened?
First of all, I was playing around with different styles. EDM was huge in 2014. I was reverse engineering a lot of EDM songs, trying to understand them. Ended up not liking them. Asked an artist that I found if I could use his artwork, if you want me to pay for it or whatever. He was like, yeah, it's okay. You can just use it. And I used it as a background image and put it on YouTube. And had pretty good reactions right away. It didn't go crazy viral. And then I had sworn myself I would put out a song every month. Slowly, I saw that momentum was building and I was gaining more and more YouTube subscribers. And I think when I had put out Unity, I had 6,000 subscribers. It was in September 2014. By the end of the year, I had like 30,000 subscribers, I think. So it slowly started moving. And I had a small label that contacted me like, hey, I can just put your stuff on Spotify and iTunes and everything. I was like, yeah, cool, you can do it. And I remember in February, the owner of the label contacted me and he said like, hey, we have the first royalty statement. And until that time, everybody told me you're not making any money from streaming. It's just a couple of cents that you make. And people are not buying the songs on iTunes because I was promoting the free download link. So he sent me the royalty statements. Oh, before he said like, yeah, we have a couple of downloads. And I thought like, okay, maybe it's like going to be like 5 downloads or maybe 10, right? He's like, yeah, we have 4,000 downloads on iTunes. I was like, what? 4,000 sales on iTunes while I was still promoting the free to download link? And yeah, I think the first royalty statement was like already like $1,000 or something. I was like, oh, wait. And I still hadn't put out Unity because I had given Windfall and Xenogenesis to the label button Unity. And then I uploaded it myself in March 2015. I uploaded it to Spotify because people were asking me, people were contacting me on Facebook back then. And they're like, hey, I want to listen to Unity on Spotify, but I can find it. And I would answer, yeah, you can download it for free and then put it into your own. You can like put it into Spotify yourself. That worked back in the day. And I got message after message, like a couple days later, the same thing happened again. At some point, like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to put it on Spotify. Even though I still thought I wouldn't make any money. And I also thought I wouldn't make any money from YouTube because everybody was always saying that. And then March, I switched on YouTube monetization. And the next day I had like $12 in one day. And the next day was like $15 in one day. And the next thing was like $17 in one day. And then I remember talking to my wife saying, hey, it's actually, we're starting to make money. This is crazy.
The next thing I kind of want to hit is copyright strikes. So if you could lead me up to those disputes.
That happened 2018. So my music is free for people to use on YouTube. And what happens is every once in a while, somebody uses my music on YouTube and then copyright protects his own video, which then leads YouTube to think, oh, this music belongs to this guy. And then they're starting claiming and striking all the other videos that use the same music. So this happens quite a bit. And usually I dispute it. I say like, oh, actually, this music does not belong to this guy. It's actually my music. So this had happened quite a few times. Never really bothered me. 2018, there was another copyright claim on my song, The Calling. Said like, hey, somebody else is claiming your song. I was like, oh, I'm going to dispute it. I'm going to explain the situation. It's actually my song. And then I got the reply a couple of days later saying that my dispute was not accepted, that the guy who claimed it said like, no, it's actually his song. And I had a person at YouTube that was like my contact person. I told them, what the heck's going on? Somebody's claiming my song. And she was like, yeah, we don't really get into this. And I was like, kept pushing her, like, can you please reach out to whoever you know, like the Content ID team? And she reached out to them, and they got back to me with a response saying like, yeah, but the guy who's claiming it says it's his song and we believe him, which was crazy because you could just look
at the dates.
You could look at the dates because the song was from 2016. We had 2018, and his video that he uploaded was just recent. And the song had at that time 47 million views already. But YouTube was like, no, we're not taking care. And then they told me, you have to figure it out with the guy who claimed it. Who is claiming it? I had a name. It just said Ramjets. That was it. So I Googled Ramjets, found nothing. So I told them again, hey, can you please tell me who I'm supposed to figure it out with? They gave me one email address where I emailed them, but I never got a response. And then the thing is, when you dispute again, you can get a strike, which limits the things that you can do on YouTube. So I thought like, okay, I'm not going to let that sit. And I made a video about it, which went pretty viral. I think it had like 3 million plays probably in 2 days or something, which was for revisiting the way YouTube handles the copyright system. Press started reaching out to me, a couple of magazines and stuff started interviewing me, and then started calling YouTube as well. And so they realized, oh, something's going wrong there. And they completely deleted from the Ramjets. They completely deleted everything. Their YouTube channel, even their email address, like all the Google services are, they deleted everything.
So you figured it all out. And now that video has like 7.1 million views. So it's reached like a ton of people. And so I kind of want to go now to where you are today. Like you have 6 million subscribers on YouTube as of today, 6.16. You have 1.7 billion views on your channel. And I'm sure, hundreds
over a billion,
over a billion on goodness, over a billion on Spotify. So where are you today with everything?
I'm not so much thinking about goals and where I want to be. I'm very focused. And that's something that I changed when I moved back to Germany and kind of restructured my life. It's more about what I'm doing every day rather than what I want to achieve. So what I'm focused on is, being in the studio early in the morning. Usually I hit the studio around 7 a.m., stand up at 6 a.m., maybe a little later. Being in the studio around 7 a.m., work very concentrated for 2 hours, have my protein vegan shake, do workout, ice tub, another 2 hours of focused work. That's my thing. Then I go back to my family. We have a late lunch, and then I spend time with the family and spend time with friends. Maybe I have some business meetings or stuff like that. So for me, it's very much about this everyday schedule, and also about not making it too comfortable. So I kind of like, these days, I sort of like the grind for the grind's sake, not for like reaching a goal and not for like working 16 hours, but, getting up early, working really hard, doing really hard workout. So my intention is always to make the workout so hard that everything else feels easy. That's my thing. So it's just what I do every day. The results, it's just side product.
What advice do you think you would give someone who's starting out on that journey, either trying to be a music producer or an artist? What advice do you think you would give that person?
I think the most important advice, especially for creative careers, and especially something that comes with some status and potentially with a lot of money, is to question yourself why you're doing it. Because if you do it out of passion, and passion means you're you're willing to suffer for it because you're so crazy about it that it doesn't matter if you suffer, you still want it. If you do it out of passion, then keep doing it. If you're doing it because you want to, be successful or reach a goal or something, I don't recommend doing it. If you're doing it because you're aiming for a specific goal and you're not reaching that goal, which is very likely, especially in the beginning, you're going to be frustrated, right? It's going to feel like a failure. And for every person, there's only so much failure you can take until you give up. It doesn't matter. Because when you love it, you don't have to be tough, right? You don't have to be tough about like still pursuing your goal because you just love the process of it. And I think that's the most important thing. So just question your motivations and see if you really have the right motivations. And if you have the right motivations, go for it, because what is there to lose? You will be able to make a living out of it, and you're just going to enjoy the ride. And if you don't like the process of making it, then please choose something else.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, and share with a friend. If you have any questions or comments, DM us at Finding Founders Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Finding Founders is produced and hosted by me, Samuel Donner.
Our Chief of Staff and Operations is Jessica Lynn.
Our audio editing team lead is Adrian Tapia, with support from
Irene Van Berkel,
Matt Fernandez,
Nay Buchanan,
Sophia Donner,
David Saide,
Ashley Jimenez,
Nicholas Guzman,
Aaron Devereaux,
Sanessa Gisley,
and Lois Choi.
Our outreach and research lead is Kenny Ong, with support from
Sarah Hobson,
Charisse Tan,
Harushi Kanauchi,
Kristen Hagelin,
Aya Cortez,
and Valencia Lu.
Our writing team lead is Elizabeth Bowen with support from
Aiden Ashworth,
Nikki Mukawa,
Sylvie Wang,
and Eric Mena.
Our design team lead is Shruti Ramanand with support from
Tiffany Dang,
Yao Liu,
and Dina Gabriel.
To see more of what we're up to, subscribe to our newsletter at findingfounders.co. Thanks again for listening, and see you next week.